Good afternoon, folks. I'm Cunio. I'm from the Sullivan area here. I know many of you, and I thank you for coming out today. It's a beautiful day, and I know you probably had a lot of other things to do, but there's nothing more important than getting our country back and our Constitution. And it is slipping through our fingers at a rapid pace. And my firm belief is that we can no longer count on any of our politicians, elected leaders in Washington, D.C., in any three branches of the government. We're that close to losing it. And it's going to require the vigilance, the eternal vigilance of the people of this country to turn this around. Many of you know me. I've been in the battles on property rights and constitutional rights for 20 years. I fought battles at the federal level. I fought them at the state level. I fought them at the local level, all in an effort to defend our Constitution, our property rights, to keep a more limited and efficient small government at all levels. I will tell you this. I worked very closely with Bob Parker on the National Animal ID issue and others for the last 4 years. Bob's running for Congress. I worked with Senator Chuck Ferguson, who spoke earlier. In fact, he really carried the water for us in Jefferson City on animal ID protection for the state of Missouri. Is it a silver bullet to protect all? No, but it certainly sends a message to the federal officials that the state of Missouri wants no part of the national animal ID system. And, of course, Brian Nieves. He is an excellent constitutional elected official. And I will tell you that these three folks, I know them personally, those are the type of people that we need in Washington, D.C. We need a rebirth of our elected officials up there, both Republicans and Democrats, because they have let us down. We always joke that when you go to Washington, D.C., don't drink the Potomac water. Whatever you do. Bob said if he's elected, he's going up there, he's going to carry all of his water from Texas County. So that's good. Maybe that'll help. You heard discussions from Paul, the young man Paul, who is an excellent, excellent speaker, and I'm sure will make a good congressman. You heard him address his issues. You heard John Wayne Tucker talk about the cap and trade. You heard Bob Parker here talk about the food safety bill. I'm going to talk to you a minute, and I think Paul mentioned this a little bit, is the Clean Water Restoration Act. But before I do, I want you to remember that these are all three pending pieces of legislation. Right now, two of which have already passed the House. One has passed the Senate. The Clean Water Restoration Act has passed the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works. So they're close. They're close to becoming law. Far too close. The only reason you don't hear about this on the national media because everybody is so preoccupied with this disastrous federal health care issue. But I will tell you that the three bills that I talked about, the Clean Water Restoration Act, the Food Safety Act of 2009, and this cap and trade, if those become law, it will absolutely render everybody in this country under the complete thumb of the federal government, controlled. And remember that. And I think somebody mentioned, Brian Nieves, I think, dwelt on the word control. I got to tell you, for 20 years I've been preaching this. Government wants control of your life. Government wants control of it. We started talking about property issues years ago. They want to control your property. But now they're down to the point they want to control everything. Now in the case of the energy bill, they want to control your energy. They know that to have a free and prosperous economy, you've got to have reasonably priced, available energy. They know that people have got to have food, everybody. They know that if they can control the food production and processing of this country, they're going to control you. Now, on the Clean Water Restoration Act, that bill passed out of the, as I said, out of the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works. It's Senate Bill 787. Just let me tell you what it will do. Well, first of all, let me tell you where we're at on clean water now. We are operating in this country under the 1972 Clean Water Act, which basically gives, through a series of amendments and what have you, the EPA and Corps of Engineers jurisdiction over the so-called navigable waters and their tributaries. That has been expanded to some degree to include other waters through various amendments. But now let me fast forward to where we're at today. And I think you heard Paul talk about this, mention it, with a slight change of wording. With a slight change of wording, the federal government is now poised, and this really digs at me because I'm a property rights guy, big guy on property rights. What it will do, if this passes, it will give the federal government and the agency or the Department of EPA and the Corps of Engineers over the jurisdiction, now listen carefully, of all waters of the United States. All waters will mean all surface waters in any quantity, any place. All ground waters in any quantity, in any place. Nobody, no town, no city, no county, no state, no individual will have any say over the waters of the United States. Now, when you control water, you control the land. You control the ability to use the land. You control the people. Now, if controlling the water isn't enough, the federal government has now said, is in 787, that not only do they control the water, but they will control all land use activity on the land that may have in any way, shape, or form a negative impact on their water. Does everybody understand that? That means anything you do, you dump a soda out here, or water, or anything, technically the federal government can find you in violation if they don't like it. It will control all private waters in pondments, pools, stock ponds, watering tanks, anything. This is the most onerous, massive land, indirect, de facto land use grab in this country's history. They try incrementally through the Endangered Species Act and a whole host of other federal legislation to gain control of your property and you. And I have said for years on these water issues, and I go all the way back to the fight on the Natural Streams Day, and we have fought many battles over water. But I have said for years that the ultimate tool and the ultimate weapon in the arsenal of the federal government is going to be water control, water availability, quantity, and quality. So you see, folks, when you look at water, land control, energy control, food production control, food processing control, down to your garden. You raise a garden over here and you take it down to the local stand to sell it, you're going to be subject to all of the provisions, which I won't go into. It is massive. You got to get permits and you got to do things a certain way and typical government stuff. So I will tell you that we're in very difficult times right now. And we're this close with this administration. And I'm not going to let the Republicans out of it because I'll tell you, this stuff, I've been in this fight for 20 years and they have been part of it too. That's why we need a new breed of politician, of elected official in Washington, D.C. We need people like Bob. We need people like Chuck Ferguson who have a proven track record of defending the Constitution of the United States. Because if we don't get there, we will have lost our representative form of government, our republic. And you know, kind of in closing here, Then Franklin, upon the ratification of the United States Constitution, I believe it was 1787, he was asked, and some of you have heard this, he was asked by a lady as he came out of the convention, she said, Mr. Franklin, what kind of government do we have?